Dobry wieczór, witamy. Good evening and welcome to our distinguished guests and visitors, to our participants, to our generous sponsors and partners, and to our hosts here at Poznan University of Technology. Welcome to the opening ceremony for the central event for European Robotics Week 2019. This evening, Poznan and Poland will take the lead for the European robotics community. My name is Steve Doswell, and I will guide you through this short ceremony. There are several parts, but we will keep things moving smoothly. There should be lots of interest for you, but no unexpected surprises. Or will there? There will be no dancing bears. There will be some traditional Polish music later. If you want to see animals, then you need to go to the main square in the old city, where at 12 o'clock every day at the town hall, on the clock tower, 2 fighting goats appear. But tonight we have no fighting goats in the room, you'll be pleased to know. Instead, we have several excellent speakers. Before I introduce them, let's just remind ourselves about European Robotics Week. When it was launched in 2011, 19 countries took part and delivered 360 events and activities. 3 years later, the first central event took place in Toulouse in France, and by then, European Robotics Week had spread to 22 countries with 500 activities. And since then, the central event has been held in Bristol in the UK, in Amsterdam, Netherlands, in Brussels, and then last year the central event moved to Augsburg in Germany, and the overall week was then celebrated in 33 countries with well over 1,000 activities. This year we are delighted to note that a record participation is taking place with a record number of countries involved and over 1,000 robotics activities in 37 countries. So what is European Robotics Week? Well, it's a stage or a platform, it's a showcase to bring the world of robotics to the attention of the public, the media, opinion formers, and of course, very importantly, young people. So European Robotics Week, it's the future seen through a kaleidoscope of events and activities. And it's international, with European Robotics Week activities now extending beyond the countries of the European Union. So why are we here in Poznan? Well, the obvious question to respond to that is, why not? It's a fascinating city with history, with architecture. It has a diverse and dynamic economy. It's a center of excellence for robotics. Many months ago, when the call was made for nominations to host the central event for European Robotics Week, Krzysztof made a convincing, or indeed a compelling case that the central event should take place here at the Poznan University of Technology. And he was right, and here we are. So thank you, Krzysztof, and to your team, and to everyone who's worked so hard for us to be here this week. In particular, we thank our generous platinum sponsor, ABB, and also, and not least, the team from euRobotics in Brussels, many of whom are here today. One man in particular had the original vision that led to the launch of European Robotics Week when he was Secretary General of euRobotics, and he's with us this evening. And so it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the stage Uwe Haass.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In a few minutes from now, we'll start this year's European Robotics Week, which will then last from today until 24th of November, all over Europe. As Steve and everybody knows, Steve has mentioned and everybody knows, Poznan is this year's innovation hotspot, hosting the central event. Now, what is the relationship between the central event in Poznan this year and the activities and events all over Europe? Well, every year, euRobotics, the association in Brussels, which organizes European Robotics Week, selects a different European city as a host for the central opening event. This has been decided to have a focus on what European Robotics Week actually is all about. It is to honor the voluntary work of hundreds, I almost would say several hundreds, if not 1,000 by now, of teachers and educators across Europe who are working very hard in creating community events in their own towns and regions. The central event, now in Poznan, creates the visibility with exhibitions, as you have seen outside, lectures and activities for children, students, and adults alike. All over Europe, starting today, hundreds of skilled teachers, scientists, and educators will start their local events. Now, European Robotics Week is riding on a wave of sympathies. From 200 events in the beginning, Steve has pointed out, we have reached around 1,200 events last year. Why is this concept of European Robotics Week so successful? There are robot competitions, football robot competitions galore. There are code weeks everywhere. There are European contests. However, I think one reason is European Robotics Week takes the European dimension into account. What does that mean, the European dimension, for us? The first dimension is act regionally and connect across Europe. These events are organized regionally by and for the local community, creating innovation networks in the community is more promising than dictating technology top-down. Everybody knows that. So we have to nurture the grassroots developments in the communities, in the regions. And then connecting these events and initiatives on a European level, on a European scale, that raises awareness of what we are doing. It builds momentum and also allows us to share experience across the whole continent. This year we have 3 topics we are focusing on. The first one is the disparity between cities and rural areas. You may know the term "no child left behind." This was 25 years ago in the United States a political program for school development. Now, we always can say no child left behind, inclusive, be inclusive in our education system. But we also say no region left behind. There are rich regions, there are poor regions in Europe, partially with very high unemployment, especially youth unemployment. We have to look at that. How can we cope with that situation? How can we salvage and how can we change this? So that's why European Robotics Week is now looking for new ideas for events and projects across Europe with robotics, which are not necessarily competitions, but they include all: poor students, weak students, slow learners, and also those who are really advanced. The second dimension we have is be aware of the common history and culture in Europe. We see European robotics as companion of humans, not replacement of humans. I think this is a picture which is developing now. What is a typically American robot? What is a Chinese robot look like and doing? And what is the purpose? And what is the European robot? We not only allow robots to help us in manufacturing, but explore also robots and robot technologies in healthcare, in dirty jobs, and even in arts and culture. And even I know projects in primary schools where children start building robots born out of fantasy and their imagination. The third dimension is tackle global challenges. Robots have a role to play in our society in tackling today's most pressing challenges, whether it's the environment, healthcare, or assistive living, the demography, or education. These are all very challenging problems. Such applications may also be more exciting if we can have a broader diversity of people getting involved in European Robotics Week. So in the workshops to follow this opening ceremony, you will find a lot of examples today and the next days. But we also like to take this opportunity to thank all national coordinators and event organizers out there, outside this building, outside Poznan, who are working hard to make the European Robotics Week 2019 a success. Your initiative, I talk to the outside people, is the most valuable. I have noticed that the coordination at euRobotics in Brussels is working on a shoestring level, but with the challenging numbers of events every year, growing and growing, still with unstopped enthusiasm. Thank you to euRobotics in Brussels, especially Lavinia. Many thanks to you and your team that you get this ever-growing, increasing event organized and also publicized. However, we are all hoping that administrators and politicians see the possibility and understand the situation and understand the need for more support. Thanks also to the exhibitors and partners this year who helped to present the wide range of technologies and applications. And very special thanks, I would like to agree with Steve, to the hosts and organizers in this vibrant city of Poznan. And I was asked, and I feel happy, to declare the European Robotics Week 2019 be opened.
Thank you very much, Uwe. So we will hear from a number of different perspectives this evening. Next, we're going to hear from the European Commission. So we'd like to welcome Andrei Bunis, Policy Officer at the European Commission's DG Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs. Andrei.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Uwe, for the opening. Good evening to all, ladies and gentlemen, and a robot, I think I heard somewhere there. I will briefly tell you what we are doing, with your permission, what we are doing at European level to increase the adoption of new technologies within the European industry and the reasons why we are doing that, including robotics. So, as you all know, the European Union has a very strong industrial base. Its manufacturing sector, for example, is the best one, if not one of the best, if not the best in the world. However, despite its many assets, the EU is in danger of falling behind in the technology race. You have seen this happening, for example, with the coming of the online platforms. You know what, you all know what platforms you are using on your cell phones, in your private life, in your working life, what tools you are using and where they are made. Lots of them are unfortunately not yet made in the European Union. We have a slower digitalization and technology adoption rate than some of the global competitors, and I'm thinking here, of course, of Southeast Asia and the United States. And we must keep in mind that without a strong industrial base, Europe will be unable to domestically produce and use and create the technologies that it needs in order to stay at the forefront of the economic competition. In particular, small and medium enterprises face some challenges, They account in Europe for 60% of the added value creation and 2/3 of employment, but they suffer by a structurally lower adoption of advanced technologies. And I'm talking here about artificial intelligence, big data analytics, robotics, one of the very important ones. So how do we go about tackling this? One way is to concentrate our efforts. For example, we are giving priority to the so-called strategic value chains. When I say priority, it doesn't mean that these are the exclusive points on which we are focusing our efforts, but they do gather most of our energy and resources. These strategic value chains have three main characteristics. They concern technology innovativeness, so they are based on the exploitation of some strategic key enabling technologies or disruptive innovation. They have economic and market potential, so they must not be only purely research-oriented. And they are of political and social importance for Europe. And here I also, of course, look into the direction of what we are doing with what we did with the general data protection rules. I'm looking to our efforts concerning the ethics in artificial intelligence, which are unique in the world. Then we use advanced ecosystems to support the diffusion of technology within the industry. These advanced ecosystems are a combination of what we find the most useful in different levers that reach out to businesses and industry. I'm talking here about industrial clusters, cities, which are one of the first interlocutor for any business opener in general, digital innovation hubs, these new structures that will be that are currently being set up by the European Commission to unroll the Digital Europe program, the European Enterprise Network, and so on. The end goal is unique, and it has been clearly announced by the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, is to achieve the Green Deal and also to achieve technological sovereignty for Europe. Let's go now maybe a bit more into detail. For example, what are strategic value chains? How do they work? They are a new approach to industry. Mostly until a couple of years ago, we have focused our efforts in a sectoral manner. Strategic value chains are complementary to this. They try to avoid the fragmentation and the lack of harmonization on a more vertical look. If you're looking, for example, at one of the strategic value chains, which is connected and autonomous driving, then we look at the energy production part, we look at how autonomous vehicles function, they look at how they are working on the road, the impact further on in terms of society and so on. So it's a more, let's say, on a value chain, looking from the start to the end, selecting one particular part, and then trying to improve and trying to harmonize the whole chain around it. The approach promotes industrial cooperation and resources pooling with member states for transnational large projects. There are 6 value chains. You can find the list. I can go through them. You have connected vehicles, you have connected vehicles and autonomous driving, you have Internet of Things, cybersecurity, hydrogen, and a couple of others more. What is the advantage of these strategic value chains? The discussions of these strategic value chains have a great potential to yield in what we call afterwards, important projects of common European interest. These are mechanisms that allow the concerned state aid, and they allow basically member states to put down some money to raise a lot more money from the industry and then to use these in a key strategic value chain in order to create local employment, to create added value in Europe, to boost European industry and European businesses. One of the examples is the microelectronics important project of common European interest, where we saw 1.7 billion euro of money from the member states that brought 6 other billion euro in private investment. But these important projects of common European interest, given this level, they mostly involve very big actors. So they involve the large industrial player of Europe. So we also need to look at our small and medium enterprises because they account for so much of the European value for the European economy. They're a huge employer overall. So in order to reach those, we are also looking at what, for example, critical industrial applications of artificial intelligence may look for small and medium enterprises. in 3 particular strategic value chains in connected, clean, and autonomous vehicles, smart health, and Internet of Things. There's a great potential there for our SMEs to move further from the pure research in which we are doing very well in Europe. It's also maybe the result of the large amount of money that member states, European Commission, and industry has been pouring into R&D for the past 25 years. But when it comes to deployment and adoption and then making something out of it, we do notice that some of our SMEs tend to go to maybe some other countries. They go to the United States to expand there, to grow. They find there much easier access to money in terms of venture capital, a larger market that is maybe more harmonized and so on. So we're trying to have these businesses, these SMEs grow and become profitable and have a good time basically in Europe. How do we reach those? Because especially in terms of SMEs, large companies, they are fairly well known by their size. SMEs, however, they're very varied. This is their main characteristic. This is what makes their strength. They're very diverse. But it also means that they're more difficult to reach directly and to have a direct interaction with them, for us to know as policymakers what would be more useful and what would make them bloom more in Europe. So we use some levers that we have at our disposal. We have, for example, industrial clusters, which are groups of businesses, mostly SMEs, with academia players, with the local regional players, from the administrative part and so on. They are one of our favorite levers to reach out SMEs because they are bottom-up. They are started by the businesses themselves. These groups are businesses that come together on their own will, so they clearly are engaged with them and they're active. They have a very large reach. The clusters in Europe account for about 54 million jobs, which I think is about a quarter, almost a third of total European employment. And we have good contacts with them. We have set up a European cluster collaboration platform, for example, on which there are over 1,000 clusters reaching out in total to about 100,000 SMEs. Small drop in the ocean of European SMEs, but they still have a huge reach in terms of potential, and especially in terms of advanced technology. Then we use cities. For a very simple reason, most cities are, well, most businesses, small and medium enterprises, are located in cities. Cities are, when you want to open up a business yourself, one of the first interlocutors that you might have, because you need some authorizations, you need some papers, you need to have maybe some advice, maybe some skills that you might want, and so they are the first interlocutor. So we are also rolling out a program called the Digital Cities Challenge, where we use cities to develop strategies for smart growth and industrial modernization, including robotics, that are empowered by these advanced technologies. And these cities, right now there are 41. We will develop the project starting January. There's going to be another round that would take the number to about 100 cities. Now, one of the more interesting aspects is that these are not capitals. We are not looking necessarily at capitals of our European Union, because general capitals and the bigger cities, they already have resources, they have staff, they have time, they have money, and they're already pretty well connected. They're pretty much advanced. We are looking at, let's say, second-size cities, and I think that maybe Poznan might be interested in that, especially since it has a very strong technological characteristic. Some of the points on which the cities are focusing during the project are open data and infrastructures. Cities in the project, they seek to encourage the stakeholders to use and share open data, to encourage businesses to use the open data that is available to them, the public open data, and so on. And then, concerning robotics more in particular, we have noticed, and also thanks to Uwe, we are very much aware of these projects that are carried out throughout Europe by teachers and schools, mostly teachers, let's say, together with industry in order to bring robotics in schools. We're not talking about university level, higher education, because this in general, robotics are much more prevalent there. We are looking in particular at what we call the age of decision. What are aim is for pupils to realize that in 10 to 15 years, life will be much more full of robots, both at work, in our private life, in our actions. They will help us to do many more things because they are becoming much more affordable. We have also, there are automatization or robotic automatization of processes, companies that are rising up, and I'm thinking here of the UiPath, which has been recently valued at something like $7 billion. It's growing very, very fast. It's one of the first and rare European unicorns. And they do this, they automatize tasks that normally you will do and then you do repetitively and then you take a long time doing it. Myself particularly, I would find a very good use for that, but every time I need to write a report, I would very much like to have something that prepares the bulk of it and then I just put in the added value. And I'm sure that you have faced this as well in your work. And therefore, we are looking at bringing robotics to school, and then we started to look at how these projects are born. Most of the time we have noticed they are born, there is a teacher and somebody from the academia, and they start doing something with very few support. Maybe they strike some sort of local deal, they have some, they work together with the local industry representative, with the local robotics company, then they can find some technological support, they can find a bit of financial resources to carry this through. And what we would like to do is to take a look at these projects, take their most successful characteristics, and then try to build some sort of maybe a model for what a successful robotics in school project looks like. So that the next person that tries to start some of this process, they find maybe a support network, they find some information on where to start, how to put pieces together, and so on. And we will organize to that purpose a conference in Brussels on January the 23rd, to which you are all very warmly invited. That is about it for me. I think I'm more or less on time. I'm very much looking forward. Thank you again for hosting me and inviting the European Commission to euRobotics Week. Very much looking forward to discussions later on tonight and tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much to Andrei Bunis. And now we're going to change the perspective again. We've moved from the European Union broad perspective back down to Poznan, and indeed here to the Poznan University of Technology. So now a few words and I think a film from the Pro-Rector for Lifelong Learning here at the university, Professor Teofil Jesionowski.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really honored to welcome all of you, distinguished guests, president, directors, deans, and of course, students at our home at Poznan University of Technology. As you know, Poznan University of Technology was established in 1919, so this year we celebrated 100th anniversary. So we are not so old as the Bologna University, Sorbonne University, but we hope that we grow in future as one of the best university. Also, as you know, we are technically oriented. This year we are a little bit exchange our strategy due to new law introduced by our ministry. Let's come back to the Poznan. We also are proud that the Poznan belongs to the European community, and of course we are extremely proud that the state of Poland was established in Poznan. It was, of course, 1,050 years ago. And on behalf of our president, rector, Professor Tomasz Wodygowski, our community, I'm also very honored that this conference, this European Weeks on Robotics, starts from our place, from our university. Moving to our university, many of courses are also taught in English, including one of the best, which is named Automotive and Robotics. It is headed by Professor Kozłowski, presented here. And also this year we established new direction related with artificial intelligence. Also very important. I'm chemist, so I'm a little bit far from robotics and also informatics, but I'm sure that the robotics belong also to the chemistry base, especially on the application in medicine, which is very important. Our distinguished guest mentioned about European development, so I'm sure that based on new robotics, new development in cyber securities and also artificial intelligence, we can also concur with US, in China and other countries, based especially in our brilliant young generation. So especially I wish to young people, to a student, PhD student, that they could absorb a lot of knowledge from your, let me say, leadership in this area. And also moving to our university, I try stop my boring talk. So if you spend few minutes from our video, you will receive some knowledge about our a little bit history and also about our development in science. Please accept my gratitude to all organizers, especially also from the Krzysztof, who is a young generation, very brilliant. I hope that he become full professor in near future, of course. And also, I would like thanks for all European organizers for this brilliant event. And I wish finally good stay at our city. Please also taste our delicious cuisine, and of course, please also absorb the very, very good information due to informal and formal discussion. So good luck, and please spend few minutes for short video. Thank you, and welcome at our university.
Poznan University of Technology has been providing higher technical education for nearly 100 years. It started in 1990 as the higher state school of mechanical engineering and has been growing ever since, adding new faculties and extending its facilities. The university's mission is to educate tomorrow's highly skilled workforce and enable new technological innovations and world-class research. Poznan University of Technology. Technology in a positive climate. Poznan University of Technology spreads across 4 sites in the city centre of Poznan. Its main campus, the Warta campus, sits on the east bank of the Warta River on Berdychowo and Piotrowo Street. This is where most faculty buildings are located. In the academic year of 2016-2017, the university was ranked the second most popular higher education institution in Poland. Poznan University of Technology provides education to about 20,000 students across 10 faculties, 33 fields of study, and over 100 specializations. Over 1,200 academic teachers oversee the process of education and provide the students with their support. The rich educational offer of the university meets the requirements of employers both in Poland and abroad. The university offers a dual studies program, combining theoretical knowledge and its practical application and apprenticeships to leading companies across the region. Each year, the university confers numerous doctoral and habilitation degrees, i.e. postdoctoral degrees. The university has founded an aviation training centre, now being the only centre of this kind in Western Poland. It was founded to provide students with insight into aviation-related specializations and on-board training. Over 80 student organizations and research groups within the university offer students excellent opportunities for pursuing their interests. Many of our students have been successful in competitions for budding engineers and constructors on an international level. Our proactive Students' Union organises events such as Polybuda Open Air, Juvenalia Student Festival, and Coordinated Collection Centre and the Great Orchestra of Christmas Charity. At the university, we also have Radio Afera, run almost exclusively by pub students. Afera brings plenty of good music, as well as local and university news. It also supports and co-organises numerous cultural events. Established in 1919, the University Sports Association Club has an impressive track record. Student members reach the top places in academic championships on a regional, national and European level. Today, the University Sports Association Club is one of the most popular academic sports clubs in Poland, having nearly 40 sport units and a total number of 1,500 active students and staff members. Artistic life is also present and thriving at the university with the Polygodzania Folk Dance Ensemble and Volantis Sonic Mixed Chamber Choir. Poznan University of Technology is an important scientific research hub. In 2016, the university was actively involved in 175 research projects, and a significant part of the university's budget was allocated for research. The university has been authorised to confer doctoral degrees in 19 disciplines and habilitation degrees in 14 disciplines. 517 students are pursuing PhD programmes. Each year, the university academic staff contribute to the body of scientific work with publications such as articles, monographs, course books, and others. Our scientists' work is recognised both in Poland and abroad. In January 2017, Poznan University of Technology was the only Polish institution of higher education to be awarded this year's Horizon 2020 Marie Skłodowska-Curie Global Fellowship Grant. We are proud to have 3 laureates of the Foundation for Polish Science Prize, often referred to as the Polish Nobel Prize. We are also proud to have scientists holding top positions in the Polish Academy of Sciences and are members of numerous international scientific societies. Many young academic staff and students have gained scholarships, including the most prestigious ones for research in Poland or abroad. Poznan University of Technology was also honoured with the Elsevier Research Impact Leaders Award for Medical Scientists. The award is given to institutions of higher education whose contributions have strengthened the position of Poland in the world of international science. In the most recent Spanish National Research Council ranking, Poznan University of Technology achieved 3rd place among other Polish universities for number of citations. As a joint endeavour of Poznan University of Technology and the Institute of Bioorganic Chemistry of the Polish Academy of Sciences, the European Centre for Bioinformatics and Genomics was established. The objective of the project is to develop strategic research and increasing the transfer from R&D to the economy. Being one of the leading technical universities in Poland, Poznan University of Technology is focused on following the quality teaching and research standards of European and world-class universities. In recent years, the university has been consistent in pursuing the internationalisation strategy of higher education. The focus has primarily been on Eastern Partnership countries, especially Ukraine, but also on China, India, Indonesia and Turkey, with their demographic potential and increasing number of students from these countries. Currently, Poznan University of Technology has nearly 250 active Erasmus Plus agreements that enable nearly 1,000 students to stay abroad. It also has over 100 agreements with educational institutions worldwide for joint research and student and academic staff exchange. Recently, a Polish and Chinese joint research centre of New Silk Road was founded to enable the transfer of science, education and culture between the 2 countries. Poznan University of Technology is a modern institution of higher education with a positive climate for study, work and economic development. Poznan University of Technology, university in a positive climate.
Well, that was excellent. Okay, so thank you very much to Poznan University of Technology, and thank you particularly to Professor Teofil Jesionowski. So, moving on from this university to another entity based in Poznan, Poznan Supercomputing and Networking Center. And to tell us more, we welcome the PSNC's Technical Director, Krzysztof Kurowski.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting PSNC to be co-organizer of this wonderful event. It's our pleasure to host all participants here at the campus. We knew that when we move to this campus, then we will have a great opportunity to create a synergy between PSNC, which is a part of Polish Academy of Sciences, and Poznan University of Technology. And this is great example that we can actually work together. And excuse me. And some of you who have visited already PSNC had a chance to see that our institution as a supercomputing center is more than only pure infrastructure. That we have established a bunch of laboratories and additional facilities, including cyber-physical systems, and we believe that these new systems, robots, drones, will have a huge and massive impact on the new services and applications that we will have to design and implement and develop in the near future. It's my pleasure also to continue the road because in the upcoming few days we are expecting to extend our facilities because simply we are not able to conduct research and do experiments on the campus, so we need a little bit more space. So we are planning, thanks to regional government, extend our facilities, and we jointly with Poznan University of Technology bought a piece of the airport located 50 kilometers from here to actually conduct even bigger experiments and proof of concepts in the near future. We also see many great challenges working with many colleagues and experts and friends from Poznan University of Technology, especially in the area of artificial intelligence. We also are happy to work with many schools. We have created open living labs and invite many schools because we would like to be inspired by young users, kids and teachers, because we cannot design next generation of interfaces, next generation of applications without end users. So we have so open, dedicated living labs here in Poznan, and I will hopefully discuss a little bit more this topic tomorrow. But we are really happy that also many young people came to Poznan. I would like to wish you all many fruitful discussions, inspiring talks. Enjoy the evening, enjoy staying in Poznan, and welcome again. Thank you very much.
Okay, so the perspective changes again. We've been from euRobotics to the European Commission. We've been here to the university and to the PSNC. And now our perspective changes to space because the future lies with robotics and not only on Earth. So we're pleased to have with us an expert and media commentator on the space sector. Please welcome to the stage the president of the European Space Foundation, Lukasz Wilczynski.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My speech will not be about space. That's the first, or maybe. Let me show you a story, an ancient one, about legendary monsters, Scylla and Charybdis. There are two legendary monsters waiting inside the Mediterranean Sea and waiting for the fishermen to approach them and kill them. And some will say that this story actually portrays us, those seamen that are trying to navigate through the disruptive world of Industry 4.0 revolution. Among all these new technologies, emerging ones, there are two special technologies that are trigger a fear and misunderstanding nowadays. Guess what? Artificial intelligence and robotics. These are actually our modern Scylla and Charybdis, threatening to take our lives, to radically decrease the quality of the life. Is that true? No, because let me tell you another ancient story. Let me tell you about Crete, also Mediterranean Sea. There was a beautiful legend about Talos. Talos sent the mechanized giant, bronze giant, sent by Greek gods to citizens of Crete to protect them. And now if you consider Talos as the oldest written, described example of autonomous robot, now, yes, think about that. It's it's the autonomous robot, absolutely. So it becomes very clear how to take, what kind of path we should take, speaking and thinking about robotics. There is a wide range of areas with robotics and artificial intelligence can be a great use to humans. And in many areas, they can elevate our horizons and bring us to the new level. In hazardous situations such as rescue and search missions, disaster relief, or as a helping hand for disabled people, or, for example, as a care providers for elders. We have this problem with aging society right now. And last but not least, let's not forget, of course, about space. Let's not forget about rovers. Let's not forget about the sophisticated space equipment that is right now crucial to the present space exploration. But in the future, in the nearest future, when you see about the new missions for NASA and especially European Space Agency, that will bring us as a humanity to a totally new level. And I think that this new era already began. And one of the proof is that this kind of events like European Robotics Weeks are taking place, or something that I'm also involved in European Rover Challenge that was held in Poland 2 months ago. So I think that you should all feel here today and tomorrow and for the next day as a part of the new era that already began, and think about Talos, not about Scylla and Charybdis. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So the perspective moves around once again. We're bringing ourselves back down from space this time. Okay, we are pleased to have with us in the room a representative not from space but from an earthly power, from the government of the Marshal of Wielkopolska. So we welcome in the room Jakub Jakowski. Okay, but we will be moving on to our next speaker. Because events like this do not happen without the very generous sponsorship of a number of very valuable companies to our robotics community. And this year's platinum sponsor is ABB. Representing ABB this evening, please welcome Marina Bill.
It's a privilege and an honor to be here and to be part of the opening of the European Robotics Week. And I think the place chosen for this event this year is excellent. I mean, what could be better than a place that starts over 1,000 years ago and has always been a place for business and trade and where knowledge takes place. And as we know, when we put business and knowledge together, a lot of interesting things happens. I wish that this week will spark the creativity of all of us, the ones that are here and the ones that are in the future going to be part of this week. So let's hope that the next days brings out the creativity in all of us. Talking about robotics and taking a little bit of a step backwards, when you mention the word robot or robotics, most people react immediately. They have a picture in front of themselves, and that comes very automatic. The two pictures that I found most common in this way are the following two pictures. I'm more on the left-hand side, and one of my first memories understanding what a robot is was when I was a little bit younger than now. The Princess Leia and R2-D2, a robot and a princess saving the universe. And I found this whole picture so fascinating, firstly because it was not a prince who was going to come out and save a princess, but it was actually a robot and a princess saving not only the world, but the entire universe. But I also know today that there's a lot of people who sees it very, very differently, and that's the evil part of the robot. The Terminator, the one who will slave people, the one who will lead to an Armageddon of this world. And I think we have to realize that even if Hollywood is polarizing us a lot, that these are pictures that get to us. And if we want to bring the future of robots further, we have to acknowledge that this is something that happens. I've so far never met a person who is neutral about robots. It's either or. For us who works with robots on a daily basis, robots becomes a little bit more concrete than this picture. Robot very often today in our society is looked upon something big, a big machine in a big factory, doing something very monotone, lifting heavy thing, and it's something that is in a cage, or at least fenced, away from the people. This is also a picture that is really not completely true anymore. Robots are collaborative today. Robots work hand in hand with people. And let me share with you an example of where this takes place, but in a little bit of an unusual setting. What you see here is one of our largest robots, together with one of the most known dancers and choreographers in Sweden. And they are actually performing a stage show together. So this took place last year. Frederick came to us and said, I want to do a show with one of your large robots, and I want to put it on stage. And we said, yes, of course. And it was a very interesting work, and our programmers got new challenges on how to do this. But one of the most important things in this was it showed how safely we can work together. We've developed software with SafeMove 2 that you can work very easily together with a robot and safely on the machine floor. But this also showed that we can do it on stage. This show went for a month on sold-out houses in Stockholm and was a great success. So a little bit of an uncommon way of looking upon what collaboration means. And collaboration is one of the first trends I like to mention when it comes to the future of robotics. Collaboration and how we work hand in hand in robotics, that is an era that just have begun. The second trend I want to elaborate a little bit is about digitalization. We know that we all live in a digital ecosystem today. I can, if I want to now, turn off the internet of my son because he should go to bed with my phone and turn on the light in the living room for my husband from here, and we find this normal. Just as normal is robots as part of the digitalization. And the things that we can do with the big data, with all the information that we have available and can do something with, we can use this with robots. So let me share with you another example. This is our Yumi, and what she is doing right here now, together with cameras and sensors, is really separating waste. She can, with help of machine learning and artificial intelligence, look upon patterns of what kind of waste it is and sort it into the right area. So a very good example of how we can use machine learning for something that leads to a more sustainable world. Because I'm also convinced that with the digitalization, we can become much more productive in factories, in big industries, but also in SMEs, and this helps reducing waste, which leads to a more sustainable world. And also here, I think we will see a much bigger move between digitalization and sustainability, and where robots will really play a big role in the future. The third trend is a little bit about simplification. The world we live in today is getting more and more complicated, and we as humans want to make it easier here. The man that you see in the white suit here has for sure never visited this university, has for sure not an engineering degree, because he's the director of the symphony orchestra in Pisa. But we work together with him, again on a stage pilot project, and he learned our Yumi how to direct a symphony orchestra. And he does not write code, and he has no interest in writing any software code, but with our lead to programming tools, he could show our Yumi on how to move and how to lead an orchestra. And they spent some time together, and the result of this was actually a concert with Andrea Botticelli in the opera of Pisa, where Yumi was conducting the orchestra, and with the help of our robot studio also synchronized with the music. With that, I don't want to say that we will have robot directors, that is the purpose of it, but it shows how simple it has become to use robots, and that it's simple for everybody to use it. Not only the ones who has a degree in it, but that's also very important. But this is something for everybody today. If we go from these three trends of collaboration, simplification, and digitalization, and bring it down to the world we live in today, and ask ourselves, why does people actually buy a robot? And it's an investment. Why does it happen? If we look back on the figures for the last 10 years, the robot market has been exploding, and we don't see that it's stopping in any way. So what is actually driving this? And actually, we should just look ourselves in the mirror, because the main reason for it is us, and that we have become so demanding as people. We are becoming more and more demanding. We want to order a t-shirt, and we want to have it in exactly this color, and we want our name on it, and we want our pet or our latest pet also printed on it, and we want it to be delivered the next day. That starts to be normal for us. The mass customization trend has just started. And this, together also with that we want things quickly, and we want it in a shorter product life cycle, puts up completely new challenges to the whole manufacturing industry. Our factories was being built for doing the same thing 1,000 times in the same way and distributing it the same way. That doesn't work when the batch size is just one. And here robot can help to support that we can have also in brownfield factories a much, much more flexible way of producing things. And that is for me the essence of the factory of the future and Industry 4.0. But this is not the only thing. The other thing is also the people aspect. And we know that we have a labor shortage in a lot of places. If we look all over Europe, to find a good experienced welder today is one of the most difficult things you can find. There is a big shortage of welders, for instance. Also here, robots can come in and take over this task where we really don't find the competence enough of today. But it's not enough with that. We also know that there is a lot of work today that is not really good for us people. Monotone work that destroy people's back, unhealthy environment like painting a car. Also here robots will already today play a very, very significant role and will also in the future. And this also makes people being able to take more skilled work and developing themselves and making sure that we are in a constantly development task as people. So it doesn't take away the work of people, and we know that the more robot there is actually in a country or the higher the density, the less unemployment we see. If we look a bit about Poland, this has been an amazing development the last year with an increase in robot and a market demand of 40%. And today Poland is number 16 in the world of robot density and was number 22 just a couple of years ago. Now all of this cannot happen only in the normal way that we used to do things, that we sit in our companies and we develop something and then we splash it out to the market. That way of developing products is long gone. What we need to do and what we are doing now is co-collaborate. Just as much as we are in a digital ecosystem, we are also in a collaborative ecosystem in new development. That means that we as companies, together with universities, together with different partners, together with our customers, are co-collaborating how solutions will look like. This makes the solutions more fit for purpose, but it also goes much quicker. And especially the cooperation with universities is very, very crucial here. And I'll give an example that is now outside Europe, but that I know we will have in Europe very soon. We've just opened a collaborative center in Houston, in the Medical Technical Center there, the largest hospital in the world, to start exploring how can robots help in a hospital, with the purpose that nurses and doctors will spend more time with the patients and less time in the laboratories with the machines making assessment of blood tests and so on. This is a work that robots can do, and with that, more time can be spent between the doctor and his patient. But this brings us back to this week, how extremely important it is that we get the creativity of all the young people, the understanding of what robotics is, the ideas of what it can be, and the creativity of getting here. And therefore this week is so extremely important, and I'm so happy to see how many events will take place this week, and it's with exciting. I'm thinking about how many will it be for the years to come. So with the three trends that I talked about, collaboration, simplification, digitalization, we will see a lot of things happening the next years. And you probably think that I'm now mixed the kind of wish list for my kids for Christmas here to this PowerPoint, but I haven't. So just bear with me a second and I'll tell you what Barbie has to do with all of this, if it's not obvious to you right now. I'm convinced that robots already today, and even so more in the future, plays a fundamental part in enabling our world to become a better place. Making sure that people get better and more interesting and safer work, making sure that we live in a more sustainable world, making sure we reduce waste, and making sure that we make the best of the resources that we have. And for order to do that, everybody needs to participate. And therefore, I'm very, very strong about especially female in robotics and in digitals. And tomorrow I welcome all of you to the panel discussion of in Women in Digital, which I'm very much looking forward to. And here is where Barbie comes in. Today there is a Barbie, probably the first Barbie that I will actually buy, that is a robot programmer. And as you can see, she doesn't come in one version, she comes in 4 different versions. A little bit of a sign of the mass customization. So today, it's a cool and a normal thing for any female to be a robot programmer. And I think that's a very encouraging message now. Also, finally, it has reached Barbie. So I like to end with a little bit of some ease. Robots are everywhere, and they're also for everybody. And that's something we will see even more. It's here for everybody in one way or the other. It is enabling us to make the world a better place, and it is an exciting place to be. And just as exciting as this event is really the technology as itself. So with that, I'm looking forward to the next coming days. Thank you.
Just in case you haven't got the message, collaboration, simplification, digitalization. I'm sure we will hear those 3 themes coming back to us time and time again over the next couple of days and beyond. Thank you very much, Marina Bill. That was fascinating. Okay, so our next perspective. So no perspective is more important than education. I'm sure there will be no argument with that in this hallowed room at the Poznan University of Technology. So the city of Riihimaki in Finland is a pioneer in robotics education. And who can be better to tell us more about their own concrete experiences than a student himself? So here to speak for a rising generation from Finland, please welcome Emil Riihimaki.
Thank you all, and good evening, everyone. My name is Emil Riihimaki. I'm a 17-year-old high school student from Riihimaki, Finland, and this is my 6th year studying robotics. I'd like to say a few words regarding my studies in Riihimaki, and I'd like to talk about what's it like to study robotics and how did I end up studying robotics. I'd like to first begin by saying that teamwork is extremely important in robotics, and I can't stress that enough. Robotics includes a lot of independent learning, but doesn't mean that you have to do it alone. What it actually means is that the teacher rarely, if ever, teaches in the traditional way in front of class. Having a team means that you can divide the problem into smaller parts. Given that the problems we solve are not small ones, they have as many solutions as there are students. Our team has always taken part in some kind of competition, where the problem is to design, build, and program a robot that does a challenge and scores points. Now, that's a huge task. But luckily, with robotics, the problems scale up with us as we learn new things. We don't have to score maximum points. We can start simple, as we did in 2014 when we started it. So we made a very simple robot and started from there. Now, obviously, after a week, we thought that we need more points, so we made a better robot. Now, I'll get back to that a bit later. So how do you actually make a better robot? Well, as a team, we have to identify the strengths and weaknesses of our individuals and what has the biggest effect in the system for its performance. Our team can have members who have skills in maybe mechanical understanding, or maybe the other one is a creative programmer, and we can then use these skills and share resources such as time. We can and always prefer working together in these, but that's not mandatory. Our studies are extremely flexible as long as we keep up with our schedule, which we set in the beginning of the season. Working out alone what has the biggest effect on the robot's performance is really hard. So that's why we do it as a team. We discuss the problems and the reasons that are causing them. Using objective methods is the best form of analyzing the design and comparing them to each other. We can use tools like computer-assisted design to help with that. It's important to have everyone present in this stage, as different personalities can bring up unique and important aspects that could otherwise be overlooked. The team allows everyone to specialize in areas they're interested in, but everyone's opinions should always be taken into account regardless of the area of expertise. Now, I hope I made it clear that the design process as a whole is extremely diverse. I know for a fact that our team of 6 years wouldn't be doing robotics if it was just programming or just mechanical engineering. As part of the design process, we document every single step of it with reasoning that explains our solutions. And I'll be more than happy to show our last season's engineering notebook to everyone of you who are interested. So, how do we improve our skills from year to year? It really comes down to the competition we take part in. After each competition, we as a team have a chance to discuss the results and see what could be improved. We also evaluate ourselves during the season. This gives us an opportunity to improve before the competitions. Overall, the design process is very dynamic. We go through countless iterations of it, and it can never be sure what phase we're on. It's only after a few years that I realized how useful it can be for me to study robotics. So, to recap, it is because of these important skills that studying robotics is teaching us that our team and I have continued to spend time doing robotics. There is no other school subject available to us that's able to teach such skills with such variety and importance. It is in robotics that I've met the brightest minds I have ever had the chance to work with. And I know I say this for the whole team of Riihimaki here. As it stands today, there isn't really a place other than Riihimaki where one could go from elementary school all the way up to upper secondary education studying robotics. And I have no doubt that I'll absolutely need the skills I've learned from robotics in my future studies and work life, whether I choose to become an engineer, a doctor, or a teacher. Thank you.
Do you remember that time when you were 17 and you went to a foreign country and you gave a presentation to an invited audience in a foreign language? Me neither. That was very, very impressive, Emil. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so there's always a last word, whatever the event. So who will have the last word tonight? Well, it won't be me. Thank you for your attention, but I shall be around over the next couple of days, but this is me finished tonight. So the last word tonight goes to the person who had the idea and the desire to bring the central event for European Robotics Week 2019 to Poznan, the organizer of the showcase event, which has kickstarted this week. So, ladies and gentlemen, please show your warm appreciation for Krzysztof Wallas.
It's my pleasure to be here, stand here. We had a lot of work to do before coming here and to welcome you here. I'm very glad that we managed to do so. And as my younger colleague said, it's really always a teamwork. So I'd like to thank to all the team that I'm working with, also our co-organizers and all the supporters, and especially our students who do it voluntarily. So they are not paid, they want to do this, they have ideas, they want to change something in the world. So I want to thank them. And not talking much, we've heard a lot about robots. So we're gonna see now the robots and we can also touch them. So I will guide you through our booths that we have here. And I think, as always Steve says, we've got some food for thoughts after this. So after this guided tour, we're gonna have also food for our stomachs. So I'm welcome you to join the guided tour, and then we go through the booths into our VIP dinner. Thank you very much.